Hello YouTube! Roughly a month ago, I made a video sharing 5 things I wish I knew before I started lifting. And at the end, I paged some of my colleagues in the natural lifting community and I asked them to share their experience because I think that you can learn a lot from more advanced lifters who have made a ton of mistakes and therefore can spare you the time. And what ended up happening is that a lot of people participated and we ended up with literal hours of golden nuggets of wisdom, information that I would be remiss not to share with you guys. So what I decided to do is I made a compilation of the best of each video and I'm sharing it with you today. What I ask on your part is this. Try to watch until the end, and as you watch, see if you resonate with some of these words. And if you do, please go into the pinned comment or the description and go check out the page of the person that managed to strike a chord in your heart, because most likely that man has a lot more to teach you. And so I would want you to be able to discover what they have to offer. This is going to be it for this introduction. I'm going to leave you with the guys. Have a nice watch.
Boring workouts build more muscle than epic workouts. If you think you need an 8-hour arm workout in order to grow, you are wrong and you are also misguided. Number 2, most Instagram workouts are useless because novelty drives clicks and drives engagement, both of which push the content out to more people. So these basic boring workouts that are actually going to be effective are not actually going to be popular.
Getting smarter is crucial, but you shouldn't learn more than you can actually apply. I was heavily interested in proper programming. I was looking into the programs of many different bodybuilders on bodybuilding.com, different websites, different forums every now and then, different YouTube channels that were around at the time. And I just kept reading, watching, and going through all the different content and couldn't really stick with anything for quite a long time. That made much of my first couple months very confusing and very non-productive. The only thing that really spoke to me making progress was just the fact that I kept working out, but I didn't really know what I was doing because I just kept finding something wrong with it in some type of way and kept finding some other new shiny object to kind of latch onto. You shouldn't do that. Keep things as simple as possible for as long as possible. Have the discipline to pick something, stick with it, and then just change one thing at a time. An analogy that comes to mind is you give a senior year math test to a 5th grader. They won't know what the hell they're looking at. And being completely honest, neither did I. There's a lot of things that you need to learn, experiment with, and experience to make sense of a lot of the information that's out there and make it relevant to you. Remember, the basics will take you far, and they will take you to that place where all that other knowledge and all that other information is incredibly necessary. But don't skip that entire step just to rush to that endpoint. Get comfortable with staying consistent.
All that glitters is not gold. Shiny object syndrome will absolutely kill your gains if you're chasing after different workouts every single week and you're just switching things up randomly. You're not going to get to where you want to go. That being said, you have to experiment in your training. If you're doing the exact same thing as you were 3 months ago, which is exactly the same thing as you were doing 3 years ago, you're probably not going to see the best possible results because your training does need to adapt to you over time.
A program, remember, works for you. You don't work for the program. For too long, I had forgotten about that. And even on YouTube Fitness, you hear that said a ton by people who say, oh, the program dictates. Bro, the program is a piece of paper that you wrote. What does it dictate? You made it. You decide what you do with the program. If you want to modify a line, it's up to you. Don't get restricted by the choices that you previously made. These choices might need to be adapted. If you're not able to adapt, you are not going to evolve. This is the law of evolution. This is how people actually progress. And it still cracks me up because even as I say that, just 2 years ago, I was still full of that idiotic dogmatism. I was trying to push the concept of a final program. Meaning a program that doesn't need to change anymore. I think now you get to understand that I have a problem because I like structures so much that I want them to be set in stone. But if they're set in stone, they stop being useful. There's no such thing as a final program. Your program is going to evolve forever. Why? Because your body evolves forever. And this is also me admitting one thing that I'm sure can be helpful for you as well. I'm not making these videos saying, oh, now I know everything and I'm moving on and only my past self was stupid. No. I'm stupid today and I will be stupid tomorrow. It's what I call the concept of forever stupidity. You must embrace this shit. This is your life. Every 5 years, you must be able to look back and say, oh my God, I was an idiot. I was completely dumb. That's a good thing. It means that you're progressing. If at any point in your life, you look back and you think either, oh, I was just as intelligent or capable 5 years ago, or oh, I was better back then, you fucked up. You're supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be constantly progressing. So this is my progression. And it's also me realizing that this flexibility most likely is going to keep improving in my life. I'm going to be more and more flexible. But this also means another grim lesson that is not that grim if you think about it, and that is that there's no such thing as a finish line. This mindset of the finish line is very toxic because you think you're going to be done one day. That's also the issue with the final program. But you're never done. You're constantly going to grow, and that is the beauty of lifting. Thinking you're going to be done is the idea of a natural limit, but there is no such thing. So it is going to be up to you to constantly adapt, to constantly move forward. And all of that is going to take, again, the flexibility I was talking about.
And this is what we have seen with all of the best naturals throughout human history. They have been consistent, not taking that much time off throughout the years. You know, I've been at this for over a decade now. I have never gone a month off without training. The max was probably about 2.5 to 3 weeks. It doesn't matter what I'm going through, how depressed I may be, how busy I am. I will get my ass over to the gym or do some kind of workout, whether it be calisthenics or something more specialized. And it's the same thing with my peers. We go hard year round, we don't make excuses. Sometimes it could be maintenance phases where there's not much gains going on, or we regress a little bit, but at least we don't stop. We stay consistent, we try to keep moving forward, and we program in a way that we enjoy, because you have to do this. You see, there was a great argument brought up by Stan Strength that I love so much. What makes a barbell bench press superior to exercises that can arguably be considered to be better if we really analyze all the objective factors? Well, the answer is simple. I like the barbell bench press. That's it. And this can be extended to every other facet of training.
Number 8, number 9, both opposite ends of the extreme. For a while, I was only doing things that I hated because they were good for me. And then for a while, I was only doing things that I was really good at, and I was not addressing things that I was bad at. So here's the thing. I don't care how optimal something is on paper. If you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to be adherent to it. You're not going to try hard, and you're eventually just going to exit out from your program. I was only doing things like that, and I hated training for it. Now, on the opposite end of things, if you're only doing things that you're good at, more than likely it's a machine that you can load a ton of plates on. It's something like an odd lift where you can lift a bunch of weight on because of the leverages. You're doing that because you can do a ton of weight, it makes you feel like a stud, but you're not developing your weaknesses. Maybe you're skipping legs because your squat is 135. Do you really hate squats, or do you hate squats because your squat isn't big? If you had a big squat, like if you could squat 500 right now, ATG for 10 reps, would you hate squats, or would that be your favorite lift? We tend to hate things that we're not good at or that are painful, and then love things that are easy, that come easy to us.
I wish I went with my gut on what works and what doesn't. When I was consuming fitness influencers primarily rather than informational sources, I found myself eventually just training how the influencer trained because everyone else was doing it, and obviously because I was being influenced by that person by consuming all of their content. And I'll touch more on that in a second, but I do want to finish this off. Even if it went against my initial instinct, I would do this. I wish I had spent more time experimenting with training on my own, not only for the sake of finding what works best, but just to enjoy it more. And one thing you'll notice in my channel is I always wear flannels. I cover up my physique purposely on the channel because I don't want you guys to be influenced that much by me. Will I post a physique update like once every few months or post a training video once every month or two? For sure, because I think that provides you guys value. But I don't want you to chase exactly what I do and exactly what I look like, because I saw what that did to me and I was being overly influenced. So one thing you'll realize with this channel is I never give you guys like a hard number or specific lifts to do. I want to teach you guys how to think about lifting, and my channel is about mindset, if you can't tell. So I wish I went with my gut, and this is my biggest regret, because I'd say I would, like, when I was consuming all these influencers content, I was 17, 18, 19, even up till when I was like 20 or 21. And then I kind of woke up when I was 20 or 21. But what happens is I had this strong sense of self, and I had this exact vision of how I like to train, and I had this instinctual feeling of what worked for me. And obviously it did work. I made great gains when I was a beginner. And eventually when I started to say, all right, well, I'm only at the gym for an hour and a half a day. I don't want to leave the gym, but I still want to be involved with fitness stuff. So I'd obviously go on YouTube, watch some influencers videos, and just watch other people lift. Because when you're 18 and have free time to do that, it's just what you do. So what I would eventually do is say, all right, well, I'm going to keep following this person, watch some of their old videos, and just go back. And obviously these are just training vlogs. I'm not actually learning anything, but what happens is you slowly become influenced, and you're just bombarded with watching this person lift a certain way and have a specific mindset that it starts to override how you like to lift. You start to say, all right, well, I want to chase that exact physique. I want to do this exact program that this person's doing. And I experienced this pretty significantly, and I lost my sense of self. And I feel like that's been my strong suit that I've kind of had my whole life. And I've always like kind of known who I was, and I'm always cool to be on my own and do my own thing. I've never needed to like follow somebody else. But once I did start following other people that didn't provide anything back to me, I got off track, and I started to kind of lose that passionate excitement that I had for training, because it wasn't the methods that I like to use.
Why did you get started? What was your reason for lifting? I knew my reason. I wanted to get bigger. Then at some point I lost that reason, and when I lost that reason, another reason was dumped into my laps by influencers. If you don't have a goal in life, trust me, other people are going to be waiting in line to give you a goal that is going to serve them. So have a goal. Make decisions for yourself. Have a goal body. Have a program that you want, and then after that, remember that all of this previously is supposed to help you. If it doesn't help you, ditch it or modify it. This is the best thing I can tell you, but the only way to get to that point again is to remove yourself from these influences. Because if just like me, you lose sight of your goal, when you get to your goal, do you think you're going to be happy? I know that for me, I was starting to build a body that wasn't really making me happy at all, but I was completely lying to myself and thinking that once I got to the finish line, then I would be happy. This also transcends lifting. I know so many people who are like this. They always say, oh, it'll be better next month. It'll be better next year. I will be happy then. If you want to be happy now. Because trust me, if you say in a year, you'll be just as miserable. So make the choice to be happy now and take the actions that are going to make you happy now. But the only way to do that is to know what is going to make you happy. If you don't have an identity, which a lot of people don't have, how are you supposed to even know what is going to fulfill it? The answer is you don't. So what is the number one first important thing to do as a human, as a man? Build your identity.
I wish I would have spent much less time learning about powerlifting and their training methods, because I wasted years following thought processes that aren't really ideal for bodybuilding, and it affected my goals, my programming, and most significantly, the content that I created for you guys, to the point where I ended up having a huge percentage of my following being competitive powerlifters, even though that is not what I was and never have been. But what does that eventually lead to? Peer pressure and changing the way you approach training, because you're trying to cater, right? You're trying to be the good guy. You're trying to connect. And this is what a lot of you guys are falling into as well. Many of you now have the goal of having the craziest squats and deads. You want to squat 600, deadlift 700. Let me ask you something. Was that really your goal when you first started lifting, or did you just want to be a buff ass motherfucker? Look like a freaking anime character, have bulging pecs and arms, abs, aesthetics galore. That's what you wanted. Come on, don't deny it. Stop. There's a common saying that powerlifters are just failed bodybuilders, and I don't agree with it in the sense that I genuinely believe that most real powerlifters did get into this for that. They care about their total immensely, and you can see who they're associated with. They pretty much follow guys who are like themselves, and the channels as well. More so niche-like, especially if you met these guys in person. But as it pertains to YouTube fitness, the average viewer who follows a powerlifting-centric thought process, those guys are often power copers because they've now completely changed everything about their training and goals to suit a sport that they don't actually care about. And you know, for a while, as much as I didn't want to go down that path, this was kind of me. I'd always be mentioning powerlifting guys, their books, their methods, the names of these dudes. And it's like, why did I spend so much time on it when my passion was hypertrophy, general strength, okay? General strength, which I still care about to this day, not the big three or having the biggest total or stepping on a platform and competing, bruh, doing 3 attempts squat bench. I don't give a about that. So GeneralStrength, that's what I cared about, as well as calisthenics and health, yet somehow ended up in this powerlifting bubble. And you know what? Now I understand why I loved the conjugate system and Louis Simmons so much. It's because it wasn't high specificity powerlifting. The fact that there was variation, that it was more generalized, that I was able to focus on other avenues. I love that. And to that, I will say, I don't regret. But learning from all these other dudes, man, it drove me crazy. Especially when I would see that my physique wasn't changing the way that I wanted. For years, I kept talking about powerlifting this, powerlifting that in my Q&As, always referencing them. And it's like, I'm not a powerlifter, bro. And it got so bad that I might have even contributed to guys going down this path. You know, learning all the lingo, just being a part of the community. It's like, look, I respect you guys. You care about it for real, but that's not what got me into training.
You are doing better than you think. Going to the gym is a big step towards self-improvement, and it's still pretty uncommon. The average person is not fit. The average person is not in the gym. The more we get involved in the gym, the more our world shrinks to just the people who work out. And as a result, it's very easy to put ourselves on the bottom rung of that ladder and think that we're not as good as other people. But if you look around and really broaden your scope, you'll see that you're actually doing incredibly well. And wherever you're at right now, it's not like you're going to stay there. If you continue to make progress, if you continue to work hard, you will continue to move forward, and you'll find yourself in better and better places as time goes on. The biggest differentiating factor between lifters really is just time. The bigger, stronger lifters have likely been training longer than you have. And this kind of brings steroids into the discussion a little bit, and maybe even genetics to an extent, where genetics, it gives you a head start above other people. But steroids, it's literally you injecting time into your muscles. You're injecting workouts that you didn't do yet into your muscles right now. Time is going to pass no matter what. What are you going to do with it? Are you actually going to be moving forward with the time you're given?
Next thing, as a follow-on from that, this is more of a general comment. While the gym should be a place where you feel comfortable and feel happy, keep the majority of your discussions either before or after training. When I'm in the gym, I walk in the gym, I'll say my hellos, okay? And then after I've said hello, I start training. And when I'm training, there's no talking, okay? Minimal talking. Then after training, then I'll go and talk to people again. So I'm pretty sociable at the gym, as sociable as I can be, but not when I'm training. So don't be the guy who interrupts people mid-training. That's not the time for conversation. Now, that has 2 side effects. The first side effect is you're going to piss the other guy off, right? Probably. And you're going to waste time. The second side effect is over time, that'll just be normal for you. And that's not a good place to be. I know guys who are my age, who've been in the gym for 20 years. They don't look like they've been in the gym once. Why? Because as soon as they go in the gym, they start talking. You know, once they're working out, they start talking. They don't restrict their conversations to before or after training. They talk all the way through training. Now, that's fine for them. But the thing is, what's going to happen over time is the level of intensity that they bring, which is that of a sedentary snail, that is just going to be their normal. That's what they're used to. Whereas for myself, I can't see my training intensity lowering when I hit 50 or 60 or whatever. Like, I'm going to be the same because I've been the same for the last 20 years. When I go in the gym, once I've got my initial talk out of the way, it's all business. And I train as hard now as I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So the problem with having a habit of talking while you're training, and a bit of talking is fine, but you know what, you play people have long conversations. The problem with that is you just fall into that habit and all of a sudden your intensity is just zero all the time, zero. You want to cultivate a high degree of intensity, a good work ethic while you're training, and then sure, still take advantage of the discussions and talking and making friends in the gym before and after, but not during. Has those two bad side effects. One is you're just going to ruin your session, but two is you'll ruin your long-term training intensity as well, and that sucks.
Do not go to the gym to fight your demons. For my generation, we listened to Linkin Park videos with Dragon Ball Z footage and got in our feels and smashed weights. For the Broccoli Boy generation, the Zoomers, y'all make TikToks with the same sound clips over and over again. The gym is somewhere where you go to have a positive relationship with your body. You build yourself up. You make yourself feel good. Far be it from me to say, if you have, you're going through something, pet just died, girlfriend just dumped you, and you need to use training as something as therapeutic release, that's healthy. But if you need to hype yourself up and get into murder mode every time you go to the gym, you're missing the forest for the trees, man.
All right, the next one, you don't have to be afraid of going to the gym. You might think, oh, like everyone's looking at me, everyone's judging me. No, they don't actually care. No one gives a shit about you. And if it seems like they're judging you, that's probably mostly in your head.
Do not lift weights to get girls or to get a significant other. Now, believe it or not, I cannot speak for women. I know. But I would imagine that a lot of women like a muscular physique, and I would imagine a lot don't. And I'd imagine that there's a lot who really don't care. But the point at the end of the day is you got to focus on you. Do it for you. Don't do it to get a girl. There's so many other variables to play with that are going to make you a desirable person. It should not all come down to your muscles and your physique. Like, this was a motivator for me getting started, one of my motivators. And, as the years went by, I started to understand that wasn't the point. That shouldn't be the point. So I want to relay that message on to others. Like, if you're getting into it for that reason, you're probably in it for the wrong reason. Like, you can use that as a motivating factor to some extent, but do not let it consume you. Do this to see what you are capable of and do it for your health. Don't necessarily do it to get girls. Point number 8 is exercise selection. And I actually made a devoted video about this one as well, so check that out if you're curious. Now, when it comes to exercise selection, you're going to have a lot of people saying that this specific movement is the one you must do. It must be in your programming. It's the creme de la creme. If you don't do it, you are holding yourself back, which is garbage. There's no essential exercise. There's an alternative for literally everything. And forcing something could set you back more than never having done that thing in the first place. Like, part of making progress in the gym is actually enjoying what you're doing. But I do encourage you to try as many exercises as you can.
The difference between people who make progress over the long run and those who don't is that the ones who make progress over the long term are comfortable with imperfection. They don't care if their schedule is not optimal or perfect. They don't care if they don't have the perfect equipment. They don't care if they have the perfect program. They don't care if they have the perfect starting point. They just keep working. They just keep moving forward. They keep doing things as business as usual, being intelligent and being diligent with their training. Doing that is what's going to separate someone from being good to great. How well can you apply yourself when things are not going well?
Look at the way many people deal with plateaus. They deload, they take down weight, and then they add more weight. You know what that is? It's essentially the equivalent of someone running into a wall once, then saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to take more steps back so as to have more speed, and then I'm going to run into the wall again. What are the chances you are going to break the wall, and what are the chances that the wall is going to break you? I was like this, I still am like this. I'm working on that. I've had a tendency in the past to find one method and then go at it again, and again, even if I proved to myself it did not work because I did not want to budge. This is, again, the ability to understand that you in the moment is not you in a month. A method that works now might not work in a month. And even if it works in a month, you might still be wrong in only pursuing that method. There might be something else that later down the line is going to be more efficient, or even replace something that has stopped to work. Always have an eye open for innovation, for novelty. Don't let yourself be shoehorned and don't let yourself be pigeonholed in a box, because the day you have to get out of the box, it's going to be a bitch. I know that because I was stuck in a powerlifting mindset for years and years and years. And when it was finally time to open my eyes and move on to a bodybuilding type of training, it took me so long. Looking back, it took me, I think, maybe from 2017-18 to 2020-21 to just transition into the proper way of training. Not even train, just transition into it. And that is because, one, if you don't have a map, you're going to get lost. Two, if you're lost, you're going to take the wrong path. And guess what? Once you realize it's the wrong path, you're not going to magically teleport onto the right path. Now you have to walk all the way the fuck back and then up the correct path. So this is why not being stubborn would have been the correct choice. Instead of just rushing forward like a bull, when I'd come at this intersection, I would have noticed, okay, this is the path I'm on, but maybe this one is also valid. Let me think for a second, let me stop. But no, of course, go, faster, push the weight, no days off, don't be a bitch. These are the things I told myself, and this is the mindset that got me in a situation where I had to take so much time to actually go back and to rebuild what I had done.
I was one of those Sammy sausage heads that trained far beyond my limits, and I ignored what my body was telling me. Listen, if your body is saying, hey, Sammy sausage head, your muscles and your bones and tendons and ligaments are being held together by bubble gum, a couple thumbtacks, and the white monster that you drank before you came to the gym, it may not behoove you to do this third set of bench press or to max out on this squat, because something might snap. So if your body is giving you warning signs, your elbow has been hurting consistently for 4 weeks, don't push yourself to the brink where now, instead of you choosing to take 2 weeks off, scaling back a little bit, doing what you can to work around it, and then coming back stronger, now you're forced. Life is giving you a forced deload of 6 months, a year. You're never able to train again the way you want to, maybe even. Listen to your body, avoid those injuries, and when they do happen, take them as lessons. Take them on the chin. Say, I did this, and this is what happens, so I'm not going to do this again.
Number 68, learn the difference between pain and discomfort. Pushing through pain equals ER. Pushing through discomfort equals PR. PR, mateys. Number 69, don't compare yourself to others. We are all on our own journeys. Number 70, because you probably will, if you do compare yourself to other people, realize that a lot goes into performance and how you look other than just genetics or just hard work. It is a multifactorial equation. Number 71, you are probably not some wildly special snowflake who needs completely different training than every other person on the planet. Number 72, you can learn something from everyone that you meet in the gym or out of it. Realize that other people might train differently from you, and that's totally okay. They might have different goals, different injury histories, and just because you do something doesn't mean other people have to do it the same way, and vice versa.
The first thing I wish I knew is that everything works. You know the saying, there are multiple ways to skin a cat? That is so true when it comes to fitness. And the best reference I can possibly give you, you'll never be able to beat this, is that every elite or well-developed natural got big and strong through different ways. Not one of them followed the same approach. Yet, you look at the end result, you can put all of us in the same room. Me, natural hypertrophy, bald Omni man, Jeffrey Verity Schofield, Fitness FAQ, 𝐋𝐢𝐿, Omar Isuf. The list goes on. Put us in a room. Is there really a dwarfing situation? Not so much. Maybe some of us have slightly bigger arms, legs, backs, etc. Like the ratios aren't the same. There's also height, body fat, limb lengths, etc. But the overall muscle mass, when we're flexing, showing different angles, you'll see that it's at least 80% comparable. And so, how is that possible if none of us use the same methods? Because everything works. Once you understand this whole idea of optimal training goes out the window. Not that optimal doesn't exist for you, just that it's a constantly evolving way. And at any given time, something may not be optimal for you, but in the future it could be. Plus, the whole idea of universal perfection is absolutely false. Yet, this is what many are trying to seek in the online fitness community. We see the rise of biomechanics gurus and clickbaiters who constantly make content on what is the best split. What's better, high volume or low volume? What's the best exercise for X muscle? What is the best periodization style for maximum strength? What's the best diet? The best test the strength, the best this, the best that, the best whatever the you can come up with. The real answer, the reality. And this should shut up this conversation once and for all. The best in whatever you're trying to pursue is that which you can stick to in the long run. Consistency trumps all.
New exercises don't automatically mean better exercises. You still need to apply consistency and progressive overload on them. If the exercise is good and it's new to you, that novelty aspect can be very useful and beneficial, but the most important thing is still being consistent. Now, there's an other side to this where there are some influencers out there who literally pull new exercise variations out of their ass, and as a result, those exercises are actual shit. And they are not going to solve the problems in your physique. They are not going to solve the problems in your life. You need to pick a good, time-tested handful of good exercises and apply yourself to them.
I wish I recorded my progress better. So basically what I was doing as a beginner was like, I would film a lot of my stuff. I wish I did this in like my first 4 months of lifting, because that's when I made some really good newbie gains. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position to make good newbie gains. But I didn't really take many pictures back then. It really started after that 4-month mark when I already had some gains. I wish I had some more before pictures and stuff when I was first starting out. I did film a lot after that. I have a ton of old videos that I can go back and look at, and it's actually cool just to see like what I was doing and what my mindset was. So I do like to go back and see that stuff, but that's all besides the point. What I wish I did better was record my progress in multiple methods. And whether this would have helped me in the moment or not doesn't matter. It's best for reflecting on later. And this is something that you don't realize until it's later. So what I wish I had back then was maybe old training logs of like what my strength was. I think strength is something that in most people probably overemphasize in terms of a proxy for hypertrophy, and we don't emphasize the other methods that I'm about to mention quite enough, which would be progress photos in consistent lighting and angle so you can actually measure things objectively. And to get a little bit more objective, do measurements too, and body weight on top of that. So I wish I was doing this when I was first starting out, because this is something where you can say you kind of feel like you're making good gains, and you don't want to tell yourself you're not making good gains, but if you just kind of ignore that and you hope you're making good gains, then you'll maybe trick yourself into thinking you are. You'll notice that with a lot of people. They'll say like, oh, I tried this method and X muscle blew up, and this blew up. I got so much bigger. But one thing you'll notice with people that make these claims is that there's never any numbers to back it up. Like one thing that I talk about a lot on the channel is when I built my arms basically over the past year or so, doing a little bit more of direct work. I brought them from 15.75 inches cold flexed to a little bit over 16.5 currently cold flexed at a slightly leaner body fat too. So that's a hard number. That's a hard number. So that's an assessment saying, okay, well, what I did, whether it's the change in volume or exercise selection or overall effort, that worked to grow my arms. If I just said, I feel like my arms are bigger, that's not an actual assessment. That's just a feeling. Having hard numbers to base these things off of is going to be key, because a lot of our own bias in us saying, well, That would be a waste of time if I didn't make progress in the past 15 months on building my arms, so I'm just going to pretend like I used to be really small and I made a bunch of progress. That's probably not the way to do it. So get the factual assessments. I know it's not fun to record these things, but your future self will thank you, and you will get better assessments to help your training moving forwards. That's super important.
Keep a training log. Sets, reps, weights used, maybe how you felt. Just write it down. Maybe keep it on a Excel or in Word. Keep it digitally. If you keep it digitally, make sure you back it up. Back it up.
I wish I knew how key and vital it was to have a program. It might sound silly if you're on this channel because at this point I hope you are on a program, but for me back then there was no such information. Everyone was just winging it. So for the longest time I was doing whatever. And even though it did develop my instinct a ton, and I do think it's important when you get started to not be too optimal and to not be too, programming oriented, to try new things and to be willing to make mistakes, it's also going to waste you some time if you just end up spinning your wheels because you don't know what you're doing. It's what I did for my first 2 years. I still made gains, but I know for a fact that it would have been much more productive if I had a plan. You must understand one thing. Many people look at a program as something complicated for nerds. That's not the case. A program is a map. If you met someone in the forest and they're just wandering around without a map, you would tell them that they're stupid because they're going to get lost. That's the exact same thing that you're doing if you're lifting without a program. You're just moving your body around. Look at the program as, again, a design architectural plan that is going to lead you to your goal body, because that's what it is. The program is the movements you do that grow the muscles you want to hypertrophy. So without it, again, you're not going to get the results that you want.
Progressive overload is both the target for the next session, but the result of the previous session. What you do between sessions is important. 82, get a variety of sources of information, not just one, not just two, not just five. Learn from a whole bunch of people. Number 83, be generally skeptical of what anyone says, especially if it sounds too good to be true, and especially if they're asking you to open up your wallet or pants. Number 84, beware of the contrarian who says that everyone else in the industry is wrong. Again, they're probably trying to sell you something.
Smart people with credentials or qualifications can lie too.
What? What do you mean you're not lucky? You lied to me? And what are you, a sheep?
In fact, because they are smarter, they are better at lying than other people are. You have to pay attention. You have to compare what they say with many other people. The benefit to YouTube Fitness is the fact that there are a lot of different opinions out there. While the quality of the opinions is not always equal, there is going to be an overwhelming consensus, and you have to be wary of people who constantly try to reinvent the wheel or constantly try to tear down well-established, time-tested methods of getting bigger and getting stronger. Number 4. Sometimes the best looking people have the worst information. A beauty pageant winner can't tell you how or why they're beautiful. A gifted athlete cannot tell you what makes them gifted or how to get to their level. You have to go through trial and error just like everyone else. Number 5, a diet is not a temporary thing. Yes, you should modify your diet in such a way that you get the results you're looking for, but make sure to adjust for sustainability. You can lose over 100 pounds and never learn how to keep it off. That is exactly what I went through, and I still pay for it to this day. Be sure that you are learning how to eat at your new body weights. Maintenance is a very underrated skill.
Now, this was a big debate in fitness and kind of still is, and it continues to annoy me because I really do feel like it's an issue of semantics and labeling things. So, when looking at main gaining, I look at a main gained state essentially as being at a bulked state, more or less, without the cut. But that bulk is going to be individual. So it's like kind of choose what you want your body fat percentage to be, and as long as you feel good and you are progressing in the gym and you are progressing in your goals, there should be no problem. You know, and there's also a lot of variables to check beyond just your calories and your body fat, and, you know, in terms of like your progression in the gym and in your goals. But again, when looking at the bulking and cutting and maintaining debate, it's both things work. Objectively speaking, both work. It's just a matter of what's best for you. Like if you're somebody who likes that fluctuation and is okay doing the bulk and the cut, great. If you're somebody who likes to be more consistent, such as myself, then just main gain or lean bulk or whatever you want to call it. Just make sure you're eating enough for your goals. It's, you know, it's honestly just as simple as that. But interestingly enough, I actually, you know, since I'm now technically a competitive bodybuilder, I have to bulk and cut. So there's that. And this actually segues very nicely into point number 4, which is about understanding calories as well as understanding macronutrients, but mostly understanding calories, because the calorie equation is how you are going to gain or lose weight. You cannot get around that. It is calories in versus calories out. But the macronutrients, they do play a role in like your energy and your appetite. So understanding, you know, protein, carbs, and fats and how to use them in your personal diet, that's also going to be key. But understand that in terms of the actual weight loss and weight gain itself, it is calories in versus calories out. Point number 5 is going to cover 2 different myths that are very prominent in fitness, and that is the anabolic window as well as needing to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And these are similar points, but when looking at the anabolic window, it's you need to get protein in like immediately after working out, or else your workout basically doesn't count. You're not going to get any of the gains from that workout, which is absolutely ludicrous. Like, don't stress out about, you know, shoving a protein shake down your throat. Like, get your food in when you can. It's not that big of a deal. And then, you know, we have the 2 to 3 hours thing as well. And that states that if you're letting your feedings go beyond that 3rd hour, that your body's just going to start to eat itself. You're going to catabolize. Your muscles are going to be poof, gone. And I was a stickler for both of these points back in the day, and I stressed out a lot about it, but really there's no stress to be had. What's going to be most important at the end of the day is your total calories, not necessarily when you're eating what. The meal timing itself is going to be very much preferential. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. It's going to be up to you. But total calories at the end of the day, that's what you should be focusing on, as opposed to eating every 2 to 3 hours.
Learn to cook. Now, whether you're naturally skinny, whether you're naturally fat, whatever, okay, learn to cook and take more than a passing interest in your nutrition. You don't need to be a lard ass for any sport. You also don't need to be super skinny. You can gain weight. Taking an interest in your nutrition is going to help. I initially started cooking because I'd moved out from home and I figured girls would appreciate a guy who can cook. That was my motivation. It was fine. It worked out, right? But the point is, you need to take an interest in your nutrition, because that is taking interest in what goes in your body, which is very influential in terms of your muscle building, your general everyday training, and also your health. In addition to that, you don't need to be a lard ass for any sport. You don't need to be overly fat if you're trying to gain weight for muscle. You don't need to be a fat powerlifter. The days of the fat powerlifter are gone. Days of the fat strongman are gone. We're not doing that. And I'll also say, if you are currently overweight and overfat and you're carrying visible amounts of fat, get it off. Like, it's the worst thing for your health. One of the conversations I have with guys who are in their 20s, when they come to me and they're very overweight, they have a lot of bad fat deposition, ectopic fat, all that kind of stuff, but they want to get bigger and stronger, is I say to them, look, you've got fat to lose. Let's get that off first. And at least we can work on building muscle while we're doing that. But the first priority has got to be that, because you're okay now, but this is going to bite you in the ass when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever. So learn to cook, take more than a passing interest in nutrition. Don't be overly fat. And if you're of the skinnier type, your nutrition is going to help you gain weight in a good way. So for everyone, it's in their best interest. Learn to cook. Take an interest in nutrition. And macros and calories are fine, but what I'm talking about is actually being in the kitchen and cooking up something delicious, cooking up something you want to eat. The amount of stories and like posts I've seen over the years, which has been a bodybuilder with, I don't know, a protein shake and some other sandwich or whatever, well, just something which is not very conducive to their health. It's pathetic. Learn to cook some decent meals.
I skipped so many holiday meals trying to stay lean. Fellas, you better spend time with your family. You better get that scoop of macaroni and cheese, and you better get those ribs that I know you're looking at. I don't know what you guys have during your holiday feasts. Those are some of my staples. Those are just foods that I absolutely engorge myself in every holiday now. Here's the truth. Here's the red pill, and I hate even using that term. But the truth of the matter is, you could eat a 3,000 calorie freaking surplus, and you're not even gonna gain a pound of fat. The thermic effect of food is gonna burn some of that off. Yeah, you'll gain a lot of water weight, glycogen, retaining things that aren't fat. But once you resume your normal eating habits, 3-4 days later, you might even be a little lighter than you were before you had that big feast, because now you're not retaining as much water, your cortisol levels are down, and so on. If you're an Adonis, you're jacked, you're stacked, you're ripped, you have a full six-pack, veins everywhere, you're not going to turn into Jabba the Hutt from eating food with your family a few times a year.
Supplements are literally useless. Any benefit that you can get from them is found better somewhere else. If you are tired, you don't need more caffeine, you need more sleep and a better hydration plan. If you are low on protein, you just need to eat more food. And even if you follow a diet that has certain restrictions, there are still ways that you can go about it. And yes, a protein supplement can be useful there, but it is not as potent as food is. If you're not getting stronger, there is an issue in your program. A supplement will fix none of these things, and they cost way more than they should, and they give back way less than they promise. Number 12, not making a distinction between good and bad foods. Now, you shouldn't vilify certain macronutrients. You do need your carbs, you do need your fats, you do need to eat protein. You need a balanced diet of these three macronutrients. Fats aren't evil, carbs aren't evil, protein isn't evil, and there's no evil food out there, but there are better or worse decisions as they pertain to you. One issue that I have made, and many others are making as well, is that we don't have a line in the sand of what is good and what is bad. If all foods are equal, yes, you will never cheat on your diet, but that just means you're cheating on your diet all the time without you knowing it. You feigning ignorance of good or bad foods doesn't change whether or not the food is actually good or bad. How a food impacts your body is independent from your feelings about that food. Now, because I'm coming from a different side of things, where I had many eating disorders, many coping mechanisms surrounding food, and a very unhealthy relationship with food, that's where I'm kind of coming with this advice. I do understand how difficult it is. And when I make this analogy, I'm not saying that food is a drug, but we have to admit that it activates similar parts of the brain to someone who has a drug addiction. In my opinion, the difference between a food and a drug is whether or not you can moderate it. The difference between a good and bad food is the same. If you know someone who has a drug addiction, or maybe has an alcohol addiction, they can't moderate those things. You don't have a moderate amount of crack. You don't have a moderate amount of alcohol if you have an alcohol problem. Food isn't exactly like that, but it isn't exactly unlike that. There are some foods that are incredibly bad for you, but it's not a universal. So for example, if a certain food makes you throw out your entire diet, if it makes you catastrophize and give up, and it causes you to make worse and worse decisions in your diet, that is a bad food, and that is a food you should stay away from.
The next thing is nutrition is important. And even among powerlifters, which is the route I ended up going, there's the eat big to get big, but it's taking way out of context. Like, you do not need, most of y'all aren't going to need 6,000 calories to grow, and you don't need to be shoving McDonald's in your face, every 3 hours, 4 hours, eating Oreos at night, ice cream every day to get big. You don't. You're going to be way better off eating real whole foods. For some of you, throw in a dessert here and there to get those calories up where you need them to be. But You don't need to just, shove a bunch of trash into your face all day long to get big, to get strong, or things like that. I've even said, even when I was at my biggest, I probably ate 75% mostly whole clean foods, and then I was shoving garbage on top of it. But it was very important to get the whole foods in first, and get those micronutrients. That they play a big part in performance and recovery. It often goes understated. We typically look at calories and macros, and yes, for gaining and losing weight, those are supremely important. But the micronutrients and the composition of the food you're eating is going to play a big part in your performance, and your recovery, and your sleep, everything. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that too. Don't just, I'm eating 5,000 calories of trash for the sake of eating 5,000 calories.
For a while, I was a Giga bulk enjoyer. Now, Giga bulking means eating way more food than you need to be in a caloric surplus to gain muscle and to progress in the gym. I was someone that thought it was the chattiest thing ever to just be able to say that I eat 5,000 calories a day and I bench press 315 pounds, touch and go. Guys, like we said a little bit earlier, just opposite ends of the extreme. Giga bulking for me, it was a lot of fun. I got to eat a lot of, disgusting food that was terrible for you, but it tasted great. But I didn't quite feel good. You start to smell when you eat all that nasty food. You feel slimy, and honestly, your workout sessions get sluggish.
If you consume content from enhanced lifters, keep in mind that things are a little bit different for them. You can still garner some nuggets of wisdom, but you have to understand that their perspective is going to naturally be a little bit different.
But you just get to a point where it's like, why are you following that person if they're it's apples and oranges? Like, it just doesn't make a whole ton of sense to follow those people. I'm very glad that I unfollowed all of them. And I'm fortunate enough, and this is probably the one kind of unique thing about me, is that I've never had body dysmorphia, and I've never really experienced that. So I'm very lucky. But even as someone that has never had that, just seeing and kind of like getting those PED user physiques normalized, like it even kind of changed my perception too. And I could only imagine like the amount of people that do struggle with things like body dysmorphia. If you're constantly being bombarded with that, like I couldn't even imagine how much that messes with your head. So that's not something that I can relate to a whole ton, but I can kind of start to, I guess, understand a little bit of how bad that could eventually become. And I don't want anybody to look up to those guys when it's just apples and oranges. Like, follow natural bodybuilders, pick someone that has a similar build to you, and maybe strive to chase after something like that. Like, I think a lot of the silver era bodybuilders, like, yeah, are they all achievable? Probably not, but that's a super realistic goal to at least get close to for a lot of people.
First and foremost, they're all on steroids. This is going to harken back to the magazine days. I grew up before social media. This doesn't hold true nowadays because there are plenty of drug-free athletes, influencers, figures, whatever you want to call them, to follow. And even with them, like, don't do every fucking thing that they do. They don't know everything. I don't know everything. But in my day, and I constantly bring up Marcus Rule. He was just like the biggest, freakiest fucking dude ever in these magazines, and that was his nickname, the Ultimate Freak. But him, amongst others, Dennis Wolf was another one I remember, of course, Ronnie Coleman and stuff. Yeah, they were just all fucking gigantic, and, I thought, reading their training splits and things like that this is all I gotta do, and I can look like that, and just lift little weights, and eat a lot of food, and yeah, I'll be good, and yeah, no, it's not, you're not gonna be that. Again, this is more personal to me, but yeah, one of those things I wish I knew. And in conjunction with that, these dudes were selling fucking the worst protein powder ever in these magazines. So I guess number two, is that protein does not taste just like chocolate ice cream. And it would be like Marcus Rule, oh, I drink, this whatever brand protein it was, Metrics maybe, back then, and it tastes just like chocolate ice cream, and it's the reason that I have all my gains and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it's not the reason you have all your gains, sir. And it does not taste like chocolate ice cream. It tastes like fucking cardboard with a hint of cocoa powder.
Always read past the abstract of a study. More importantly, look at their funding. Also, look at any conflicts of interest. 58, realize that everything on social media goes in waves and cycles. Often the pendulum goes between two extremes. Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. And realize what is good is not always popular, and what is popular is not always good. Number 59, a food log is important, at least for finding out what is making you bloated and farty. Number 60, sleep as much as your body tells you to. So if your body tells you you need 9 hours, you sleep 8 and you're just, you wake up and you're kind of groggy, you need 9 hours. If you feel fine on 7 hours, it's probably fine. Number 61, alcohol is definitely not healthy and does impact performance and progress, but if you enjoy it, you can probably fit it in and still get to your goals, in most cases. Number 62, listen to the experiences of other people, but realize their experience might not apply to you, and also realize they might be full of shit. Number 63, read about training, but the same thing, someone else's experiences might not apply to you. Number 64, personal experience, even if it's n equals 1, is better than a study on other people of n equals 100, or 1,000, or 10,000, or 100,000, or 1,000,000. Your own experiences are absolutely valuable.
Don't compare yourself to others and try to catch up. If you do this, you will never feel good about yourself, and you will never be your best. You travel further when chasing your goals than when chasing another person. That person that you're comparing yourself to, they don't even know that you're there behind them. They are not running a race to become better than you, faster than you can. Focus on yourself. We are on a similar path, but that doesn't mean we are racing against one another.
It is my belief that most of what you should be watching and consuming on this platform is information to better your life. Entertainment is okay, but if you do 70% entertainment, 30% information, in my opinion, you are simply wasting your life away looking at other people having fun, other people fulfilling their dreams, etc., etc. And on top of that, you're making them money. Be a little bit more selfish and take advantage of people like me and others who are there to share their experience. To me, this is what lifting is. We all do it individually, independently, and that is great. But after that, we are to pull our experiences together to push everyone forward. Passing down knowledge to the younger generation is what I am personally passionate about. And therefore, that type of video is right up my alley. And then there's the second aspect, which is the vulnerability. The ability to open up. If you can't open up and admit that you used to be stupid, you used to make mistakes, you are going to be a poor teacher because you're not honest, you're not relatable. I think this is key to do because I see many of you guys, young men, who tend to look up to us and think that we're special, like we're built different. And I'm there to remind you that it's nonsense. We all started small, we all started stupid. It is normal. We got to the point we are today. It does not make us different. It just means that we've been at it longer than you. That is it. Once you realize that, you're going to finally fulfill your own potential and you're not going to limit yourself with bullshit excuses because you could very well be the person that in 3-4 years is going to be in front of the camera telling other young men how to program, how to lift, how to be better, how to improve their life.
The final mistake that I made, that I have to speak on in good faith as a content creator with people who are bald Omni man enjoyers, whomever enjoyers. Don't be an eternal consumer. Don't watch people like myself, whomever else, achieve things and do things that you want to get for yourself. Don't live vicariously through others, because when you live vicariously through others, you give yourself an excuse to never undergo that journey yourself. You give yourself an excuse to never try, to convince yourself that the people that you watch must be special. I believe that each and every person has something unique that they can bring to the table. Unless you're just a Sammy sausage head, you're not good at anything, yeah, maybe you have nothing to bring to the table. But the majority of people have something, some spark that makes them special. There's no right or wrong time to share that with people.
Sometimes you should do as much as you can. Other times you should only do as much as you need. Those will probably be two very different things. 87, have goals, and then goals that support that goal. If a goal doesn't support that goal, it shouldn't be a goal.
Wherever you are in your journey, have high goals, have lofty goals. And it's very popular to discuss like daily discipline, okay? And all that kind of stuff, the daily habits you need to accomplish what you need to do, or weekly things, monthly things. But what I'm saying to you is have a vision. Have a vision for what you want to be, what your ultimate form is, to use the phrase. Now, when I first started training, my goals were to hit 3 plate in the bench, 4 plate in the squat, 5 plate in the deadlift. Now, we could argue all day long about strength standards, and that's not what the video is about. But the point is, I had a long-term goal, okay? The good thing about long-term goals, whether yours is strength standards, whether yours is physique standards, whether yours is something else, measurements, or whatever it is, right? The good thing about having a long-term goal is it reduces the friction for your day-to-day habits. Okay, why am I eating healthy today? You wake up in the morning and you want, I don't know, maple syrup and pancakes, but why am I going to have the breakfast that I want? Because I want to be this guy. This is the guy I want to be. I have a vision of who I want to be. And that's what I'm going to do. Why am I going to go to the gym when I'd rather sit on the couch? Because I have a vision of who I want to be. It's very important, I think, to have a vision. Now, whatever your vision is, whether it's strength or physique or just competency or just, I don't know, competing, whatever it is, ensure you have a long-term vision, have high goals right from the beginning. Ensure you know what your long-term vision is. It's very important. It helps to smooth out some of the resistance you might feel on a day-to-day basis, where it's easy to overcome a daily habit or a daily tick box. But no, you've got a long-term plan. So let's do the daily things that matter. All right, next, related to that. Next is, now, I never had the best genetics for strength. I never had the best genetics for bodybuilding, certainly not for bodybuilding. But what I did have, and I say this over and over again, and I've said this many times over the years, what I did have was 2 things. I had patience and I had a plan. With patience and a plan, you can accomplish a hell of a lot. So you remember the first goal was have a high vision of yourself, okay? Have a high, lofty goals, have a vision. The second thing is have patience and a plan. Assuming you have a great plan to get to your goals, you can break down that larger vision into smaller chunks and accomplish what you need while having the patience to actually enact the plan. You can do a hell of a lot with patience and a plan. I've surpassed many people who have had genetic advantages far greater than mine because I have 2 things, patience and a plan. I initially stalled on a 3-plate bench. I thought I would never get it. I was stuck at many years with a 90-kilo bench. I was told I'd reached my genetic limit. I eventually went on to bench 180 because of patience and a plan. You can accomplish a hell of a lot with patience and a plan.
It's fine to have goals, and I actually encourage you to have a goal body, because with a goal body comes a program, since if you want to build a citadel, you're going to need an architectural plan. But you don't apply a deadline to it. This is the mind killer. This is what is going to fuck up the entire equation. Why? Because now you're stressed out, so you're going to rush, you're going to take shortcuts, because you absolutely want to get to this at this point. Question is, why? I asked myself this also in the past. Why? Why was I so rushed to get to a point? I vividly remember that I didn't used to be like this. I used to be very patient when I just got started. I was just going wherever the path was taking me. And these are the years I remember fondly because I was just walking, I was just enjoying myself. It was about the journey. The second you make it about the finish line, 1, the finish line doesn't exist, and 2, now you're not really having a good time anymore. And again, it took me a long time to wake up from that mindset of realizing, wow, you don't like lifting anymore. This has turned into a punishment that you're inflicting upon yourself. Why? Because you had forgotten that you're supposed to like it. You're supposed to have a good time doing it. Why? Because you have a goal and you want to get it as fast as possible. You're walking down the path again. Look around, enjoy nature, look at the trees, look at the sky, feel the rain on your skin. Don't be the dude that is going to rush up just to be able to say, I'm first. This is YouTube fitness. Get bigger in 2 months. Get this in 4 months. Get all of the results in the wood in 15 seconds watching my video that's a shitty TikTok short. All of that is just to play off of your fears and insecurity, and most importantly, your impatience. This was me in the past, and most likely it is you as well. So do not fall for that. Make sure that you have, again, a headstrong mindset, but don't let people make use of it, and don't let yourself fool yourself into just rushing blindly, because most likely you will have the same realization I had a few years back, and it's going to cost you a ton more time than if you just had taken your time on the way.
You know, I hit a goal, and the next question is, okay, so are you going to bench 4.5 plates now? Are you going to squat 6? Are you going to deadlift 7? Like, when does it stop? At what point does it take for you to finally be satisfied? You know, it's never ending with this. All for numbers. And I think the tipping point was when Louis Simmons passed away. That clicked something in my brain where I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done with this too. So at this point, I'm just so fed up and burnt out from even talking about the methods and the sport and who the major guys are. Like, I don't care. I really don't, man. So my advice is, if you feel similar, don't open up that door and step in. Because the moment you do that, it's going to be a hole waiting for you that when you fall in, is only going to get deeper and deeper. And next thing you know, you're going to find yourself competing and wondering, why am I even doing this? Only to eventually realize, like, yeah, I'm wasting my time here. I'm taken away from my actual hypertrophy objectives. And let me tell you, some of the worst hypertrophy advice I ever got was from powerlifters. Not trying to be a complete here. Like, I genuinely apologize if I'm coming off like that, but the whole minimalism of not training your arms that hard, just being hyper specialized, this topic of carryover, like, who the cares about carryover if you're getting strong overall? Like, if you're doing RDLs and you have way better recovery, your glutes, hamstrings, and spinal erectors are growing at an exponential rate, and your numbers are going up, yet it has less carryover than a stiff-legged deadlift, or you just practicing the deadlift more, like, why does that matter? Like, you're still going really far. You know, the whole emphasis on high sets, low reps, using higher percentages. Yeah, it equates hypertrophy, but it also beats down your recovery. And you're pretty much only going to do that on the competition movements. You know, then your accessories are half-assed in most cases. And just the ratio, like the balance between the movements, it really does bias the big three. And that's why a lot of these dudes are not only bottom heavy, but they have very glaring muscular imbalances that could have easily been solved with a more maximized approach. And like I said before, I'm so exhausted even talking about this that my brain has shut off. I can't even begin to reason and argue because I'm done. I don't want to talk about some of the cons and frustrations that I've gone through. I just want to give you solutions moving forward. You know, this is how you grow your arm. This is how you grow the muscles that don't help your total. You know, I wish I would have spent more time watching bodybuilding channels. Of course, there's a lot of fake natty frauds, way more in that community. But still, eventually you would have found the legit ones and just digested all that they have to offer.
I know for a fact if natural hypertrophy, basement bodybuilding, heck, even myself, if we could jump into a time machine, we would jump into a time machine, get, 17-year-old bald Omni man, put him in a headlock and say, do bicep curls, you dork. Do some hamstring curls. I would make that fella do isolation exercises. Doing big barbell lifts only with no accessories is powerlifting hogwash. That, full stop. You look at the most developed powerlifters, even the most developed bodybuilders, they are doing a smorgasbord of different exercises that work different muscles from different angles. No, it doesn't have to be the most complicated thing in the world. It could be as simple as I'm doing squat, bench, deadlift. I'm also doing pull-ups. I'm doing barbell rows, barbell curls, hamstring curls, and then some lateral raises. That is a holistic training program, not squat, bench, deadlift, maybe barbell rows. That's powerlifting hogwash.
Work every muscle group. This is non-negotiable. You might not care about a certain area now, but you might in the future, and doing at least a little bit of work for every single area, at least to get those diminishing returns, the low-hanging fruit, is a good idea.
The main thing that you should be thinking about is enjoyment. Have fun. So relax a bit. Have fun with your training. Enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying it, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Because at the end of the day, it's great to have achievements. It's great to get the trophies. It's great to get your name on the record board. It's great to beat people. It's great to dominate your competition. Don't get me wrong. I love that feeling. But at the end of the day, if you are standing alone with your gold trophy and there's nobody around you because you've pissed everyone off over the years, and there's no girlfriend, there's no wife, there's no family who are there to support you because you've just made everyone an enemy because of your vision, then is it worth it? No. One of the key things I drive home to a lot of the younger guys is keep your woman happy. Keep your woman happy. Keep your family happy. Keep your kids, your parents, keep them happy. These are people who care for you. And sometimes you have to relax a little bit, pull back, and ensure that people around you are taken care of while you are attempting to achieve what are sometimes very selfish things. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they're going to be there, hopefully. You're going to be there. And ideally, you want to have had the experience to be a good one. I can look back safely now over the last 20 years and think, you know what? I've got all my family around me. I've got the people I love, my friends, and I don't have those regrets. But there was a few times over the years where I risked those relationships. That's probably a video for another day. I won't get into it now. So don't do that. Ensure that you're having fun. And sometimes you do need to relax a little bit and remember the bigger perspective.
Enjoy your training. It'll help keep it sustainable.
Be kind, be humble, especially to yourself. The gym is a place to get better. You can't hate your way to a better you. Be a good friend to yourself. A good friend is someone who expects good from you. A good friend doesn't talk behind your back or betray you, and they most certainly don't let you betray yourself. Make friends with who you are and who you want to be. Show compassion to yourself, but also believe in yourself that you can be more. Everyone you see in the gym is on a very similar journey. It may look different, and it may take them more times, more attempts to make progress, but it doesn't make them any less worthy of improvement than you. We all start somewhere. We all have had our highs and lows and our time at the bottom. Every person who wants to get better makes mistakes, because if a person is going to be anything, if a person is going to make a change, if a person is going to get better, they will make mistakes along the way. The best we can do is move forward. The righteous path is narrow, but it is wide enough for us to help each other and not tear anyone down.
If you've managed to make it this far into this video, congratulations, you have a better attention span than 99% of people. But as you can tell, it was worth it because you quite literally absorbed decades of experience from advanced lifters. That is going to save you a ton of time and prevent you from making the dumb mistakes that we might have committed in the past. Now, to mark the fact that you are one of the real ones, go into the comments and write the name of the person that inspired you the most. And keep in mind that the best way to get more information from them will always be to go onto their page and subscribe, so consider doing that. The natural community might not be the biggest, but I believe that we are the healthiest and we give the best advice. And therefore, I think that if we continue working hand in hand like this, and we also work towards giving you guys great information without expecting anything in return, we are going to be in good shape, we are going to continue growing, and the golden age of natural lifting will be upon us. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.